Take a seat at the table with us. My name is Anthony Brinson.
My name is Madi, Warden.
I'm Thomas Cobb.
And I'm Brad LaPlante.
And this is the Sports Roundtable Podcast. So, if you guys can't see, we got some new faces. Thank you guys, Brad, and thank you, Madi, for joining us. So, usually, I guess I can look at the camera now. So, usually how our previous format was, it was myself, Thomas, and Deshaun. And now we're going to try and switch into a different format of having new hosting, potentially new hosting every week. Shout out PJ and the sports desk. That's why Madi is here. And then we had a bit of difficulties of getting in some other people, but we're here. So first of all, how Brad and Madi, how y'all feeling?
I'm feeling good. I can talk a lot, and I can talk a lot about sports, so I feel like it's going to go pretty well.
Sounds like you're perfect for the Sports Roundtable Podcast, then. How you feel, Brad?
I'm good. I'm great. I'm excited.
If you guys aren't familiar with Brad, he's pretty much our new editor for this year of the podcast. The reason why I'm talking to you in the camera now is because of Brad. So thank you, Brad, for the cameras and restructuring the podcast room and helping me bring this vision to light. So thank you, man.
Yeah, I'm very excited, and I love it. I love doing it. Thank you, boss.
Boss is crazy. I'm still not even used to. I guess technically I am your boss, but a lot of the sports, I guess, activities or events that we do have been pretty cool. I just learned the other day that we kind of finance trips to get our reporters out there, and to perfectly segue into it. So Thomas covered the not U of M, Michigan State, Wisconsin game, and didn't we win that game, luckily, or did we end up losing?
Unfortunately for the Spartans, they did not end up winning that game.
Hey.
It was a great experience for me being able to go. I went to Chicago earlier in the season for the Duke game for the Champions Classic, and then to Detroit around Christmas break for the Baylor game.
Okay.
And so this was, I'd say, my third time going on the road. Great experience, cool arena, the Kohl Center, but it was not Michigan State's night by any means. It was a step back for them. They had entered that game as winners of 8 of their last 10, and they had a golden opportunity because Wisconsin was the best team in the Big Ten. They still are. They're leading the record. I think just one loss still at this point, and it was one of just a handful of opportunities remaining for this year's MSU team to pick up that statement win in the conference. They have, I would say, pretty much just one statement win at this point, and that was the Baylor game. Mm-hmm. I think that, according to the metrics, their next biggest win was actually against Indiana State here at the Brinson Center. That's classified as a quadrant 1 win.
Okay.
So those two are still our only quadrant 1 wins, and one thing's clear, they're going to have to pick that up at some point if they want a favorable draw in the tournament. They have Illinois at home coming up in a few weeks. I believe it's February 10th. And then Purdue on the road at the end of the year. But that's, that's a very small likelihood that you're going to go down there and get a win where they haven't gotten a win in, who knows how long, 5, 6, 7 years. So that Illinois game's one that we're circling, but Wisconsin just dominated them. Inside, their big man, 7-footer, Stephen Crow, was too much for Michigan State. Had 15 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. A.J. Storr, 6'7", lengthy guard who can handle the ball and shoot, went for 28. He went for 22 on December 5th when Wisconsin beat Michigan State at the Brinson Center by 13. That kind of epitomized their early season struggles, and then they kind of went back to it, unfortunately, in Madison for those 40 minutes where they just never really had a real pulse or rhythm.
Well, I mean, never say never, man. You mentioned that it'll be difficult to walk into Purdue and get that win, and I can imagine it's going to be an uphill battle. But in your opinion, based on your analysis, what do you think MSU has to do to kind of get these impactful wins?
They just have to put it together for 40 minutes. I mean, Tom Izzo has harped consistently throughout the season. Like, this team can play with anybody in the country, and we've seen that. They had I believe it was a 3-point lead over Arizona in a neutral site game over Thanksgiving with, I'd say, 4 minutes to go. They've had chances in a lot of their close losses. So just being able to have consistency in performance where they're playing like the team that they need to be for as long as stretches as possible. Whereas, you're seeing them get off to slow starts. You're seeing them have these lags and productions in the middle of games where that's ultimately costing them in a lot of these close losses. Like I said.
What say you, Madi?
I was gonna say, aren't they known for, if they're down at the half, they struggle to come back? Isn't that a big thing right now?
And they were down 2 last night
They came back.
At Michigan, not at Michigan, at home versus Michigan. It was Tom Izzo's 69th birthday, picked up his 700th career win. Just kind of a storybook.
Said 69, that man don't look a day over 50. What you talking about?
29 years. 29 years for one team, 700 wins, all with Michigan State, and it was just a great night to do it. Rivalry game, biggest rival, I would say, for the program. At home, jam-packed arena, his friends and family were there. It's just a great feel-good win for the team, but there's no doubt that they face an uphill battle in the conference. I mean, their chances at realistically getting back into that picture, very slim. However, they can, sort of boost their resume for March with a pretty favorable schedule. I believe the metrics have them favored in all but one of their games for the rest of the regular season, and that's the Purdue game. Okay. They actually are favored at home against the Illinois team that's been playing really well and has their best player back, Terrence Shannon Jr.
Okay, well, you gave a perfect transition to the U of M game. Congratulations that we took care of business, beat them by 19, if I'm not mistaken, 81-62. You got any thoughts about that, Maddie?
I would like to take a second to talk about that block from Cohen Carr. I think that was in the first half. He's insane. That was insane.
Yeah, the call, I believe it was Robbie Hummel on the call, said, that's a dunk against 99% of college basketball. But when you got a guy who's got those kind of ups, that kind of thing can happen. And the Breslin Center erupted. It was kind of a much needed energy boost. They were sort of struggling in the first half, and they kind of came to life after that. They were down 9 points. Couldn't hit a shot. Michigan at one point made 8 straight shots. They were shooting 60% at halftime. They made, I think, 4 out of their 5 first threes. So it was just like one of those things where they faced that early adversity. They had to kind of claw their way back, and then ultimately just stormed ahead, tightened the screws on defense. Michigan, not a very good basketball team, if we're just going to be honest. 7-14, on track for their worst season in over 15 years. Juwan Howard's, I would say, on the sizzling hot seat at this point. He might not even make it to the end of the season, in my opinion.
I was gonna say I would leave him on the bus at this point. I was not.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where he had the early success, but that ability to sustain it with your own players just hasn't worked out. So, but it was like I said.
I was kind of worried at first. I mean, I figured there's no way that Michigan wins this game. Going into it, no disrespect to Michigan, but there's no way that this happens. And then I was following along, because I was out working on a project, and the game started at 9, so I was on my way back at about 9:10 or so. But I was following up with the game on the box score, and they were losing. And I was and it was 29-25 or something in that range. And I was what's happening, sort of thing. And then I sat down to eat dinner, and within the next 7 minutes, it just completely flipped. The entire game after halftime was and it was crazy, and I just missed the whatever happened between that time. I totally missed it.
They got their running game going. They were down 2 at the half. They kind of went back and forth for a few minutes, and then Walker had a steal for a layup. Hogard scored in transition, and then Jaden Akins hit, I'd say, 4 or 5 threes in the last 15 minutes of the game. Career high 23 points. Kind of a revival game, and getting MSU fans to see what he can kind of be. If they can get that Jaden Akins on a consistent basis, they're sitting pretty. I mean, it doesn't matter at that point what kind of production you're getting down low when you have Jaden Akins, who's ultimately at this point their 3rd or 4th option. If you want to consider Malik Hall in that mix, Walker and Hogard are your go-tos up top. One of the best backcourts in the country if they're both playing in sync. But if Jaden Akins that played last night against Michigan comes to play, even every other game, they're going to be exponentially better than they've been, because he hasn't necessarily taken that step that a lot of people thought he was going to. I mean, he tested the waters of the NBA draft this past offseason, and Izzo wants to see him in that two-way role, like a Gary Harris kind of player that he had all those years ago, that can hit shots and play good defense at the same time. And he's a little bit concerned with this year how he's kind of not been able to balance that the best. When he's not hitting shots, he's not playing as good of defense kind of thing. So once he figures that out, he figured it out at the end of last year. He was, had a heck of a run helped Michigan State reach Sweet 16. So if he can capture any kind of that end of what he did last night, they'll be in a much better position.
And then AJ Hogard had 1,000 last night, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
He had 15 points, 7 assists. Izzo said he thought he played average in the first half, but turned it on in the second. And I think you could kind of tell he was good. He was going for 1,000. I rewatched the game. Yeah. There was a play where he could have dished it off for an easy layup. I think it was to Cohen Carr. Might even been able to throw him a lob, but he went for a layup, got rejected, and Michigan got it, came back on a steal, and he scored for his 1,000th point. So I was kind of like, okay, he was forcing.
He was itching for it. He knew it was coming.
I would do the same thing.
Yeah, same thing. And then those type of milestones aren't easy to achieve. I mean, like you mentioned, Juan Howard, U of M had that early success, and then now it's been kind of stagnant. And even so, like going downhill with their record right now. And then
absolutely,
Tom Izzo, even though we haven't had the best season, 700 win as a coach, 1,000 point with the player you guys were just mentioning. Who was it?
AJ
Hogard. I mean, there's definitely some light at the end of the tunnel, if you would say. And then especially if we're favored for most of our games except Purdue. Are we in Purdue in that game?
We are, yes.
Okay, so that may be a difficult task.
I actually can't remember the last time a Michigan State team won in Mackey Arena. I think it would have to be before 2000. It would have to be 2018. So 6 years, and then before that, they didn't really, like, those wins were scarce. This has kind of been a house of horrors for them over the years.
Well, that's pretty insane, but we've taken care of business as far as rivalry weekend, and to go kind of across the pond to even your beat, our team, Michigan State women's team, beat their U of M women's team as well. So,
yeah, and unfortunately we don't have Deshaun here because he's done a great job covering that team.
Yeah,
they've done a great job, I think, just showing off early. I mean, it was kind of a season of we'll see how this goes. It wasn't necessarily a prove it season with their new coach, Robert Freilich, but they've come out of the gate swinging for sure. Correct
me if I'm wrong, Deshaun covers the women's basketball beat.
Yes, sir.
Okay, my bad. That's my mistake. But with that, because I was actually there at that game, I actually worked that game at the Breslin, and to see, like, just how the arena fills up for these type of games and the interaction with the fans and then our team actually pulling through, it's like a great full circle moment to see, like, how everyone comes together for moments like these and they pull it off, and it was just a great win to see.
Yep, and it was another one of those sort of memory making days. I think Freilich even said after the game, she said, this is a scrapbook day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it was
a scrapbook, and your family was there. A lot of the former players were there.
Yeah, I was just about to say it was alumni
day, and the arena was packed. I mean, I heard that people were starting to file into the upper bowl because the lower bowl was all full.
Yeah, I can testament to that. There was a lot of, I'll say, frustration between some of the people that were there at the game, and part of that frustration was due to it was packed. The whole arena was packed.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, definitely. So it was great to be able to open those upper bowls and then get more people seated in because, I mean, whether it was general admission or reserved seats, there was pretty much nowhere to sit so much. Even some people in my area I was working in, some people were just standing, taking pictures, getting a video, and they had bought a ticket, but they just couldn't sit down. So it was crazy.
Yeah, I think there was like 9,380-something people in attendance for that game, which was amazing. And now they're 6-4 in the Big Ten.
Is that a record? The 9,000?
It's not.
I don't think so.
But it's got to be up there.
Even for the women's team? Not a record? Okay.
We would know.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you would. I feel like I read the attendance somewhere. Maybe that was maybe it's just for the season, which makes sense.
I think it was a season high.
Yeah, season high.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of the women's team, I know this game was a little old, but man, when they play Iowa, that game was so winnable. Like, we was right there before Caitlin Clark hit that last shot. Like,
I think that game sort of has symbolized their season so far, and with their new coach, they don't care who they're playing. They know who they are, which is just a fast, high powered, really good shooting team. I mean, all five of those starters can hit threes. 2 off the bench can hit threes. It's just they know themselves, they know their identity, and they don't care if they're going on the road to Iowa. They're going to play their game, and it was almost good enough to win. I mean, it took a 40-foot step back from Caitlin Clark at the buzzer with a nanosecond. Watching it live, probably because it was on Peacock, and Peacock Not very pleasant.
Shout out Peacock though. Shout out for the sponsor. Just in case we ever get sponsored. Shout out Peacock though.
Not very pleasant viewing experience. I'm sorry, but it looked like she didn't get it off.
Yeah,
That's I heard a lot of that too.
I think it wasn't the issue. Somebody was saying that the issue was that the actual like shot clock was not in sync with the TV display and the scoreboard display.
She definitely got it off.
Yeah.
Like upon replay, but it was so close.
It was so close. I did
was
not
very
think
close.
that she did it first.
I didn't think she
But it was
did
a great
either.
game. I tuned into it. I mean, I watched almost all that game.
and that just shows her talent, really. I mean, I know she don't go here, but shout out Caitlin Clark.
She's
people,
insane.
along with her, Angel Reese, like they're reshaping women's sports, and it's great to see because it's been a topic of debate of like, oh, they're not as good as men or the NBA, WNBA, and it's showing that not only can it be on the same level, sometimes it could be even more entertaining.
Yeah.
Like I've watched more women's college basketball than men's college basketball personally, and it's due to people like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and our MSU women's team. So shout out to all of them.
There's a lot of men's basketball players I know that would lose in a one-on-one to Caitlin.
I mean, really,
Oh, absolutely.
honest. But to take a step back, actually, I wanted to ask Madi and Brad, since you guys are new guests of the Sports Roundtable, what's your favorite sport and why?
Mine is hockey. Shout out hockey.
Hmm.
I started getting into it. It's been probably a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I finally figured out the sport a little bit more, it clicked and I just fell in love with it. And it's high paced and it's entertaining and I love it.
Do you specify between like NHL or college, or is it just hockey in general?
I would say hockey in general, but I think where I first found the love of hockey was definitely in college.
Okay.
Going to Michigan State games and that kind of thing. So
Didn't our college team beat U of M too?
we did. We split the weekend.
I mean,
But they always play two, so like
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we split the weekend. We lost 7-1 on Friday, and we won 7-5 on Saturday.
Okay,
and
we
that
got our
was
get
that was a
back.
comeback win. It was awesome.
Yeah, I think I remember people from the state news, they had left and came back like, oh, we came back and won. But what about you, Brad? Favorite sport?
Oh, so I got two that I'm gonna roll off.
Okay.
So my favorite sport is Formula One. We don't cover that here. Sorry.
Like, what is...
I know.
If you could explain for the audience and your fellow co-host, what is Formula One?
Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport.
Oh, okay.
It is a bunch of cars going super quick around, and it is, if you think it's just like cars going in circles, it's way more than that. I recommend the Netflix series Drive to Survive. Incredible, just dramatization of sports. You know, if you're like into documentary filmmaking, it is a masterclass in storytelling. Even though it's like really exaggerated, but it's also but anyway, cars go really fast. It's really dramatic too, because they're under high pressure. They make one wrong turn, one mistake, they die. They could die in a fire. Or so, it's basically like, it's very, very, very intense is basically the gist. So
is that like a newer movie? Is it older?
Drive to Survive is it's a docu-series, so they make it once a year. Then the 6th season comes out on February 29th.
Okay.
Like a sales rep for
So they've been
Netflix.
making it for 5 years.
Yeah, they've been making it for 5
I'm gonna have
years
to watch
now.
that.
I just found out about it like a few months
I'm
ago.
gonna have to watch
so.
that for sure.
Hey, good promo.
It's such a good promo, but I'm like advertising for it. But no, it's great, and it's probably got me like, it's the most obsessed I think I've been about a sport. Because I think the thing I like about Formula One is it's so easy to root for. I'm like making this a Formula One podcast. It's like so easy to root for like everybody's, like, because everybody's making the car. Like, you have to make your own car, right? It's not like NASCAR where they just give you a car and then you just put the pieces in or whatever. It's like, it's where everybody's driving the same car, and it's like, if you can drive this car better, you win. In Formula One, everybody has to like basically engage with a science project and make their car the quickest under certain regulations.
Wow.
And then also there's a driver that's driving the car, and you have to like, they're part of the equation as well. So it's pretty intense. And once I think you get the science part of it, like, I think that's when it becomes exciting.
Right.
So is it more focused on the driver, the person making the car, or is it everybody?
It's kind of everyone. I think
Okay.
that people like to make the assumption that like anybody can drive a fast car if your car is quick enough. Mercedes dominated the competition between 2014 to 2021, and then they had a new regulation change in 2021. So that's kind of the beauty of the sport, is every time there's a regulation change, there's like the car has to be completely remade from the ground up.
Right.
And so like they have to almost rethink their entire strategy of the way they build the car. And so that kind of leaves the door open for a new player to come in and dominate. So like from 2014, they had a regulation change where they moved to hybrid engines, and I'm like tuning everybody out, I know, but they moved to hybrid engines in 2014, and Mercedes dominated until 2021 when there was a new regulation change. I mean, imagine if sports were all like this. I mean, Tom Brady wouldn't be in half of Super Bowls.
You just had to come for Brady. You just had to come for the go.
I was a fan of Brady growing up. But that's my point. Is it's I think that's the beauty of it, is that it's always like constantly changing, and there's always room for somebody else to sort of take that reign, you know. But yeah, it is exciting. And if anybody hasn't watched lately, then I would recommend that. So my second favorite sport is hockey. So you know, so that's the one we actually covered. You know, the two like really unpopular sports in America, racing and hockey are my two favorites.
Well, I mean, no, at least from what I see up here, hockey is popular, man. Like,
yeah, once you get like north of Tennessee,
and
or north of Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm not too hip to it, but I don't know if you're familiar with gamer terms, but would you consider like a new regulation, a new meta? Would you say?
What's a meta?
So it stands for most effective tactic available. So you say every regulation they like change car parts to get like it kind of restructures the whole.
So like I mean it's I guess I mean it's like, so a lot of the regulation changes are moved for like safety reasons, or so like because the cars. So basically after like 6 years or so, the next one's in 2026. The next regulation change. Okay. The regulation changes are typically made for safety reasons because the cars get too fast and they get too dangerous, and then they have to like basically make them more safe, and also for competitive reasons, so like to kind of give everybody a fresh start. But like last time, the regulations were built around the hybrid engine, so if you built a really good powertrain, your car would go faster. This time it was much more like aerodynamic specific. So like if your car has, like you walk up to an F1 car and there's a bunch of like little tiny details that are like, you know, there's, you know, you're yawning. I'm just kidding. I'm totally just kidding. You know, but there's like little curves and things like that in the car that kind of like make it, you know, go quick. But,
do they, like, are there specific cars you have to use in Formula One, or can you just use any type of model?
I mean, you can basically do anything that's not against the rules. So like, so that's I don't know the specifics of it.
Oh, okay.
But there is an interesting documentary featuring Keanu Reeves. Apparently, I've seen it. I've seen the documentary. But there's Keanu Reeves interviews this Formula One team from 2009, where they were a new F1 team. It's a long story, but basically the gist is that Honda had a Formula One team. They didn't want to be in Formula One anymore, but they couldn't just pull out. Like that's not a thing that you can do. So instead, the management of the team bought the team for $1. Okay, like he bought it for £1.
60 cents.
Yeah, £1. He bought it for £1, and they ran the team. And what they did is they added a second diffuser underneath the car, which basically makes the car stick to the ground more.
Just sounds like a mechanic's dream.
Exactly, yeah. So basically, all you need to know is it gives the car more downforce and pulls the car to the ground.
Okay.
And other teams had not thought that creatively about it, and nobody else was doing this. Right, so that's kind of the thing. You can do anything you want, and almost you can come really close to breaking the rules. Just don't go over the line.
Okay.
Even people were saying that they broke the line, and the thing is if you break the rules, like nobody cares if you're not winning. But because they were winning, people actually care. I mean,
like
you can put 4 wings on your car, and nobody will care. You know what I mean? Like if it's not against the rules, then so.
Okay.
That's Formula One in a nutshell.
Thank you for the lesson. I genuinely didn't. That wasn't part of my sports knowledge.
Yeah, that was not on the agenda today.
So if we go across the sports world to the NFL, to more specifically to talk about football, I mean, I guess I won't go straight into it, but the championship games were this past weekend, and I'll talk about the Ravens and Chiefs game first. So this game for me was hard to predict because, to include bias, I'm not the biggest Lamar Jackson fan. I would personally consider myself a Lamar Jackson hater, sport-wise. I don't know him as a person, but I'm part of the camp that feels his style of play doesn't win championships, and as we see, his style of play doesn't win championships. And with how that game went, it was so frustrating because the Chiefs were very beatable. Like 17 to 10. That's not.
They were not. The Chiefs were not bad.
Yeah,
and I'll get into this. I have a little like Lions thing.
That's why I'll lead them last.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think the Chiefs were not. They're not like, this isn't like 3 years ago Chiefs where you're like, this is a dynasty.
Yeah,
like they are a very beatable team, and Baltimore could have. I'm like, dude, you fumble the ball, or they turn it over in the end zone like twice,
and then not even that, like Lamar Jackson, again, even me being a Lamar Jackson hater, I would have loved for him to win that game and prove me wrong, but like, I don't know who the receiver he threw it to, but it wasn't Randy Moss, it wasn't Jerry Rice on that triple coverage. I mean, just
it was quadruple coverage.
It was I only saw 3. Like, that makes it worse. Like,
yeah.
It just, that decision making, it's just the Ravens, not to put it only on Lamar, even though I do feel he holds a pretty good portion of it, but it wasn't just him. The Ravens in entirety fumbled that game. Like, no pun intended, but like we all agree, like the Chiefs were very beatable. Mahomes, and it kind of even plays into the strength and dynasty of the Chiefs and Mahomes, because the receivers have been considered mediocre. I mean, Travis Kelce is really, that's the main strong suit they have, and they still manage to find a way and pull these games through. But
it's
I mean,
Taylor Swift effect, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unpopular opinion, I don't mind Taylor. Like,
Neither do I.
Like, I'm there for football. I'm not about to be bothered just because they keep showing Taylor Swift, and she's Taylor Swift. I do the same thing. Like, Travis and Taylor. I thought of a theory. Like, just imagine if they're not together and they just, like, for the business, for the NFL, that'd be crazy. But what y'all say about it?
I mean, I was listening to something, I don't remember what it was, but Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs is just like a completely different guy. Like,
unless he plays Tom Brady. My bad.
But just like seeing him and Travis Kelce, just the chemistry that those two have together out on the field in general is probably what helped them pull a win in that game. But Lamar Jackson, the Ravens kind of just blew it, I guess.
I put a lot of money on the Chiefs winning because I knew that they were going to win. Yeah. I knew they were going to win. I'm a Broncos fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen that movie one too many times. every time you think they're not going to do it, guess what? They're in the Super Bowl, and they're probably going to win.
I had a streak for about 3 years where I would predict the Super Bowl winner, like, after week 1. So I would like watch the games and see like how each team is doing, and based solely on week 1, I would predict the winner, and I got it for 3 years in a row. But this year was the Ravens, and they,
I put $25 on the game and won like 200 something. Like,
that's crazy.
That's a great investment.
That's crazy. I would have thought that the Ravens were gonna win, but I mean the Chiefs. Yeah. It's like one of those things. How do you bet against them at this point?
You don't,
especially
if you play them twice a year.
Yeah,
we did beat them though this year for the first time in 8 years. So take that.
And that's what's crazy. You want to segue into that Lions game?
I do. But
let's do group therapy
real quick before I segue into it.
Lions.
I have a question. So I don't agree with this notion, but how do y'all feel about Travis Kelce in the GOAT conversation as far as tight ends? Do y'all think he's there, or with a ring? Let's say they win. Do you think he's there? Do you think he has a case?
Yes.
So the argument against it, I don't think I have an opinion either way. Okay. But the argument against it, I did hear that was very appealing. Is that like, so you talk about Gronk,
That's
right?
what I was gonna say.
And so like, the thing about Kelce is that he's kind of a receiver, right? Like he's not, tight ends can be, but he's spotted as a tight end.
He is.
But his job is mostly receiver.
I think the critique comes from to give you more
do you mean
context.
like,
Thomas.
Do you mean like he's not like as good of a blocker?
Yeah, that's from what I've seen.
Yeah.
That's where the context comes
like
from.
that's kind of the conversation.
He lines up at tight end and he runs tight end routes like he's a tight end.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean you could say that he's the best receiving tight end.
I mean,
but I don't think that just because a guy's a good receiving tight end that makes him a good tight end.
The Patriots would split Gronk out wide all the time. You know, like
yeah. I mean that's true. That's true. Like I said, I don't have an opinion either way. I'm just here to put the fire, stoke the fire, and back out.
What I was gonna say is like this is all a conversation.
Yeah.
And like your question was, is he in the GOAT conversation? Yes, he is. Like
he's in the conversation.
If you have to think about the arguments against it, he's in the conversation.
That's true. Yeah, he's in the conversation. I don't know if he'd be the. I don't think that I'd say that he's the GOAT.
No, he's not gonna go yet. No.
See, and you bring up a whole nother debate of the whole, like, the conversation. Like, this happens in NBA. Like, if somebody's, like, what are we considering the conversation if, like, let's say, for example, we're trying to think of a top 10 player. He's at 10. I mean, I guess if we're saying he's in the conversation, the top 10, but he's 10, I mean, I guess that's the conversation.
I mean, how long have these leagues been going on, right?
Yeah,
you know
like, how long is the
if
conversation going on?
If somebody's in the top 10 all time, they're in the conversation.
If you're making a figurative Venn diagram, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I personally still I have Gronk as the GOAT tight end. I mean, Brady fan, Gronk fan kind of makes sense. But even then, when you think of people like Tony Gonzalez, Shannon Sharp, I mean, Travis Kelce is in that conversation. But to not prolong the inevitable any longer, man, I mean, it sucks to talk about the Lions 49ers game. It sucks because similar to what Brad was talking about, I'm usually good with my predictions every year, and I did predict the 49ers to win this game, but as the Lions started off so high, it's like they gave me hope. And it's like, I've also been, especially if you know me personally, I'd be considered a Detroit team's hater because they sucked for so long. I'm like, I'm not about to keep giving them faith, but they finally good this year. And I'm like, okay, you know what? They can beat they gonna win that first game. I had a feeling they was gonna win their first game. I had a feeling they'd beat the Buccaneers or the Packers if the Packers would have beat the 49ers. And then once they got to the 49ers, I'm like, okay. Because the 49ers they've been my prediction to win the Super Bowl because it doesn't make sense to them not to win the Super Bowl. I mean, their team is stacked. They got Brock Purdy looking like prime Cam Newton. I mean, there's no excuse, in my opinion, for them not to win the Super Bowl this year. But I'm like, okay, the winner of that 49ers-Lions game, I personally feel could be either the Chiefs or Ravens. I still feel the Lions could have they could have walked in that Super Bowl and beat Patrick Mahomes.
I think so
they definitely could have beat Lamar Jackson, in my opinion. So I'm like, the winner of that game, Super Bowl champions. And Lions up big, 17-0. They looked great. Like Jahmyr Gibbs, I think that's how you say his name. He was running the ball great. Jared Goff looking good. It didn't look like 49ers had an answer. It looked like a typical Kyle Shanahan choke performance. And then it just completely flips on his head the second half. There were literally memes of people on Instagram. You know how they got the little status thing? Everybody was saying, like, go Lions, Lions, Chiefs, Super Bowl. Right. And it completely flipped to, I'm never watching football again. How could this happen? And it's just disappointing because as I texted to my dad and some friends, like, they Lions the game up. Like, only Detroit. That was one of those, at least how I felt. Like, only the Lions could do a loss like that. Because it was funny. I don't know if y'all saw certain TikToks of, like, they were making, like, Lamar Jackson edits or, like, Lions edits, like, to save us from the Chiefs because they didn't want the Chiefs to get to another Super Bowl. And it's like, they managed to let the country down. Like, that's a big loss. Ravens and Lions. Like, we got another 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl. And I get, if I'm right, I mean, I guess the 49ers may win, or maybe Patrick Mahomes get ring number 3. Would it be ring number 3? It'd be ring number 4. Would it be?
I don't know.
I think it was 3.
He's beaten the 49ers already. Who he beat for his first ring? I
just has 2.
Yeah, so it'd be ring number 3. I mean, I get 49ers Chiefs, woohoo. But what y'all say?
I mean, it was a heartbreaker for me.
And then, real quick before you start, Maddie, as a Brady fan, I'm not mad at the narrative like Chiefs keep winning because I mean I'm a Brady fan, but I feel it from being a LeBron fan and having to deal with the Warriors. So I get how people feel about the Chiefs now because it's like he keeps winning. But I was a Brady fan, so I'm like, hey, Brady got 7. Mahomes can keep getting some. It is what it is. But
I mean, I've grown up a Lions fan, but this is the first year where I was like, okay, maybe I should start actually, like, watching football, like, learning people in the NFL, and just seeing how far the Lions came from in the past couple years from their first season with Dan Campbell to their season now, and just seeing the finish that they had to this season after just blowing everybody out of the water. Not necessarily, but, like, just having a dominating season that, like, us in our lifetime. We've never seen it before. And that ending was just heartbreaking. Like, you're up 24-3 or something like that.
Well,
I don't remember
it
what
was a 17-point lead.
It was
at
24
half.
something.
Yeah, it was 24-10.
24-7.
24-7.
Yeah, 24-7.
I can't do math. Sorry.
I know, I can't either. I can't even remember the score.
That's why we're journalists.
I mean, you come out of halftime and you're like, all right, let's keep the ball rolling. Like, let's finish what we started, and then they just. I have no words.
So here's my thing. Okay, so I don't know what y'all's opinions are. About specifically about the decision making. There's been a lot of.
I wanted y'all to do it like
about
so
it.
there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of talk. So this is where I'm gonna put the lay of the land.
Okay.
Out here. Okay. And I want
to
see if you guys agree with me.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So a lot of people are talking and blaming Dan Campbell. Okay. Then there's a lot of people defending him and saying like all this other stuff. Okay. So here's my thing. I think that it's about a 70-30, maybe 65-35 split between Campbell and the team. Like, this was a whole, like, a lot of things
Who
have
had
to
65 out of curiosity?
I would say Campbell just for, and I'll explain my reasons in a second.
Okay.
But this isn't like, I don't think that Campbell's blameless. Like, I think that if you think he's blameless, that's like delusional thinking. No offense. But so here's my thing. So Campbell, obviously, like, you know, you sign up, he's gonna go for it on fourth down, you know, and I don't mind that. I think that, you know, if that's his coaching style, so be it. You know, and I know that the players dropped a lot of passes. I think my issue with Campbell's decisions, like of them all, the one that really bugged me was not actually even any of the fourth down conversions. It's the fact that he chose to run it. I don't know if that was
You talking about third and goal?
Third and goal.
Yeah,
and you run it and and now you waste a timeout, the game's over. Like, you just the game's over. You just ended the game.
Yeah.
Like, there's no chance for you to come back. And I know that, like, the chances still would have been slim. But that's just not, like, you know, any NFL coach, you can't do that. But of the fourth down decisions, I think the only one that was really, like, truly questionable is the one where he was down and that would have tied the game. The field goal would have tied the game.
Absolutely.
That was the big one. I think that, like, you know, because people are talking, the discourse right now is like comparing the fourth downs as though they're equal. You know, but the problem is that, like, you had one where you were up 24-10.
Right.
Yep.
And then you had another where you're down 27-24.
Yep.
Like, those are not the same in my eyes.
To give you a bit of a rebuttal, even though we're pretty much 99% on the same mindset, but the one where it was 24-7, weren't they also in field goal range?
24-10.
24-10.
They
Weren't
were,
they also in
so
field
they
goal
were
range?
in field goal range, and all of them I think were like 4th and 2, 4th and 3.
Yeah.
But which isn't a bad idea, and even up 24-10, like, yeah, you could argue that taking the points at this point would just be like the safer option, but, like, at least you have the risk to go for it.
Yeah.
You know, at the time that, I mean, these were only like a few minutes between each other, these two fourth downs.
Yeah.
Well, I think one was at the beginning of the first half, and then the other one was at the end of the
Yeah. I'm following you.
Whatever. But the game had completely flipped at that point. You know, you're down 27-24 now. I mean, just take it. You know, at this point, because now if San Francisco scores and you don't make the fourth down, like, you have to be thinking in advance. And I think that my opinion at when Campbell got hired was very negative.
I think a lot of people's was.
Well, my issue was
Mine
that
was.
he had never called a single play in the NFL. And I'm
Really?
like, rookie head coach, rookie.
He's not calling plays.
What's that?
He's not calling plays.
No. But my point is that, like, if you're a head coach, like, you should have the experience to, you know, especially if you have a rookie GM. I don't like the rookie GM, rookie head coach combo. But and I had a lot more faith in Brad Holmes because he had built a lot of the Rams roster, and I really liked what he did there. But my problem with Campbell was really just that he had never really had the experience to warrant the head coach role, and he's grown on me over time for sure. But I guess my point is that like I just wish he was more tactical for making these decisions. And I think that if you're a Lions fan and you're on the Campbell train, you just have to live with the stuff that he does and hope that he learns from it, because he's kind of just learning with what he does. We would all agree that he's a good head coach.
He's great.
It's just the fact of like really trying to hone in on these decisions that really make you wonder like I don't understand why didn't he go for it on 4th and goal at the end of the half? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that would have saved the game, but there are just a lot of things that had to go wrong here, and almost all of them did, including the fumble by Gibbs, including the drop passes by Reynolds. There's just you know what I mean? You can't if he would have put his players in a better place to succeed, those issues wouldn't have really ruined the game, I guess is my point.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, Dan Campbell is one of the coaches, like one of the only coaches in the NFL that has the highest % chance of going for the 4th down. Like he does it most of the time, but then yes, there's some times where you're sitting there and you're like, if you went for it on the 4th down the last time, why aren't you going for it now? Like if you know that you can do it, then why aren't you doing it? Like just go for it. But then I mean you should have kicked a field goal. And while there's a lot of controversy that I've heard about how our kicker is probably not the greatest in the league.
Why is he on the team? What, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's, I guess,
to make a 50-yarder in the playoffs.
Like, yeah, that's my. I think that's my issue is like, why is he there? Like, why do you have him on the team if you don't believe in him?
Why are you paying him millions of dollars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's my thing. It's like I don't think that's a good excuse.
Yeah, if you don't trust him enough to do it,
then why is he
there?
It wasn't even 50 yards either. It was
like 48.
Just leave the kicker position absent.
To play devil's advocate, even though I do agree with y'all, I mean, if he would have converted those 4th downs, we'd be singing a very different tune. And that is how life works, like if it would have worked.
That's my thing with it. Like, I have zero problem with either of the decisions because I actually am a fan of that, like, mentality. If you stick with it and you live by it, but you also die by it, I had no problem with either of them. And they were both good plays. There were 2 throws that were pretty much on the receiver, and they were both dropped. Both passes hit the receiver in both of his hands and ended up on the ground. Like, you can't blame Campbell for that.
No, absolutely not.
Well, wasn't the second one actually a throwaway by Goff?
They were both just straight up drops.
I thought the second one by Goff was
the one where they were down.
Your memory better than mine.
The one that they were down. I think it was the one that was right across the middle. You just him in the hand,
Reynolds
just
dropped it. Goff played incredible.
I thought that was the first one. Pass.
The first one was also Reynolds.
Incomplete deep right to Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Maybe that was at the end of the game.
That was the second 4th down conversion. I think he
overthrew it.
I thought it was he got forced out of the pocket and he threw it away.
I don't think I feel like
it didn't hit a receiver's hand. The first one was a drop by Reynolds. That one was right up the middle.
Yeah.
There was 2 drops by Reynolds on 4th down that were huge.
Yeah.
I only see 2 4th down conversions on the stat sheet on the play-by-play.
You mean attempts?
They didn't convert it.
No, like they only lost on downs twice. One was a pass to the right to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it was like a floater. He was forced out of the pocket. I remember watching it because I watched him, and he totally it was. I did not think it was a good play call. Yeah. The first one was not Campbell's fault.
No.
You know what I mean? Because you can't. I mean, that was actually a good play call, good setup, and you can't. I mean, you can't count on your guy dropping the pass. I thought that was a really good play by the Lions, especially with Goff.
I think Goff played incredible that whole year, or that whole. There was.
And I'm not saying that the second play was Goff's fault. Because I remember watching it, and that was. I mean, I think San Francisco more or less played the play like they just played it really well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Amon-Ra ran a. I think it was either a post or not a slant, but either
you talking about?
What's that?
Were we talking about a cross?
No, not a cross. He ran. He was lined up on the right side, and he ran out to the right. And I think Goff was trying to throw it towards the end zone, but Goff had nobody open to throw it to, so he started rolling right and he couldn't find anybody.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, to play devil's advocate, like, if that's your strategy, like, stick to your guns and keep it in your quarterback's hands. I completely, like Thomas said, I don't agree with him. I understand the decisions, but I mean, and then we're not even talking about the dropped interception from the Lions where it was tipped to Brandon Ayuk on the goal line. Like, that could have been a great play. And then as far as the decisions, I mean, I do, like I said, I can defend Dan Campbell's decision on those, but I mean, I feel you should have took both field goals, like the 24-10, and especially when you're down, take both field goals. If I'm not mistaken, that wins them the game if they take those field goals. If you make them, of course.
If you even take both field goals, you're probably gonna win the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I mean, those are just points that you, and not even to mention the I mean, like I said at the beginning of at the end of the half, they had that 4th and goal at the 2-yard line. And they ended up taking the field goal. And I was like, if you're gonna go for it, there's your going for it.
Yeah.
Like you're at the end of the half. What are they gonna do if you don't get it?
Well,
like, I mean, he just kicked a field goal.
3 possessions. I mean, I kind of get it.
Yeah, since San Francisco got the ball back, I agree with the field goal there too.
I mean,
personally.
I guess he was looking at it. You know what I mean? Like he was trying to decide if.
Yeah, I remember he was looking on the side, and then I was like,
and he was asking the ref like, how close is it? I don't know. I just feel like if you're gonna be aggressive, like that's actually not a bad decision because at least at that point, if you don't make it, you can kind of adjust your strategy for later. Yeah, and you can play the game by ear.
You're up 17 points instead of being down 3.
Well,
so
yeah, and that adds another. Instead of getting 3 points, you get 7.
You know, and then I mean? Like definitely win the game.
So that's like.
Win.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to play what if. I mean, they could have went for it on 4th down there and not made it, and then you're out 3 points, and then they could have also kicked those field goals and missed both of them. I don't know why they would. I'm just putting that out there. If we play all these hypothetical scenarios, like
we'd be in the Super Bowl.
well, you know, and so I don't know. I think the worst part about this for me, because I'm a generally like new Lions fan. I grew up very cynical about the Lions because they have a history of being like the worst franchise ever, right? So like it was always very hard for me to root for them. And this year I've gotten on board because of their success and everything. I'm sorry I'm on the bandwagon. But I think the thing that hurts the most is how beatable Kansas City is.
Exactly.
Because in my opinion, the Detroit Lions did not just lose the NFC title game. They lost the Super Bowl. Yeah. Because, like, you could have gone and they beat Kansas City in Kansas City.
Only by 1, though.
I mean, yes, with a bunch. I mean, Kansas City had some issues with personnel and injuries and everything. So there is that, but they could have beaten Kansas City. I fully believe that Kansas City is a beatable team.
Yeah. I think they are too.
And that's why I think, even though they were my prediction already, like the 49ers, this shouldn't be the continuation of Patrick Mahomes' legacy or dynasty. Like this should have been a Lions win, but since it's the 49ers, I mean, Brock Purdy about to go from last draft to champion if things go as planned. But even like you mentioned earlier, like I can give them the 4th downs, I can give them not going forward on that 4th and goal. Why do you run it on 3rd and goal? Like
like if you don't make it, the game's over. Yeah. And you rely on you have to get an onside kick like that. I mean, that's just game mismanagement that like is unquestionably like dumb.
Yeah, they Lions the game up.
Like I mean, I was listening to another radio host. He called it malpractice. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of like you can't do that. But
to save it for last, Thomas, I know you probably got a mouthful to get an audience.
I mean, I kind of just said what I needed to say. I have no problem with what he did, but if you kick both field goals, you probably win the game.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. There's 2 things can be true at the same time. And if you're just looking at it, like, objectively, it's just not a good decision.
And you said they were under 50 yards, too, right? So even if the kicker is
like
bad.
40.
I mean, and I think he's like 88% for his career. So, like, I don't think he's that bad.
Wait, so he's not even bad?
That's not bad.
I
don't think he's that bad.
The Lions also convert 4th downs at, like, an insanely high rate. So, like, if they make the 4th downs, he's a hero. If they drop 2 very catchable balls.
Then
that's the thing. It's like I'm looking at these plays and I'm like, yeah, if he makes them, he's a hero. He's a genius. If he doesn't, he's an idiot. Like I'm like, yeah, but you can't chalk every decision up to that.
And there were 2 good plays with 2 guys that got open. and decent throws on both.
Yeah, and especially if one dude, if I don't know if both or one dude, but if you dropping the ball, I mean, literally the Lions dropped the ball. So
I do want to reiterate though too. Campbell's not like the only one to blame. It is the players.
Yeah.
It is a lot of people.
Definitely, it's never in these situations. It's never on one person. But this has been a phenomenal episode with you guys. I appreciate all of y'all for being here, and even the audience for this new format. Maybe it'll be us again. Maybe it'll be some new people who don't know or who knows. But real quick before we go, Super Bowl predictions. I've made it clear the 49ers, they shouldn't lose. But
I think the 49ers will win it. I hope they do.
Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I don't know what it is, but
It's
the way
number 15.
I think that the Lions are a good team, but I think that the 49ers and the Chiefs are both like beatable teams. I don't think that I think San Francisco, they might be like, they might be stacked. They might have a lot of good players, but I think that Brock Purdy's shown that he can do a lot. I don't know. I'm not going to bet against Kansas City.
Definitely understandable.
I'll probably put $25 on the game.
Hey, make another quick 200.
Yeah.
But this has been the Sports Roundtable podcast with myself, Anthony Brinson.
Madi, Warden.
Thomas Cobb.
Brad LaPlante.
Thank y'all. See y'all later.